Welcome to Two Idiots and a Dog, Idiots Unleashed.
According to 7 out of 10 people, not the worst podcast out there.
Yeah, but you only pulled our Discord server.
Shush you.
I'm Grim.
I think I'm Zolgar. And Kaiju, I don't know where Kaiju is.
She's probably off sleeping on the sofa or your bed or something.
Probably.
Just a quick warning, this is an uncensored podcast, so you may hear adult language or other content not suited for children, the workplace, church, or, frankly, human consumption.
This week, our topic is, it's the real-world ramifications of Star Trek technology. That is my idea, but inspired by, I believe it's D from FTO Nerd Talk, as he specifically requested we do a Star Trek episode. So, here you go, Star Trek. Anyways, if you have an idea for a topic for us, you can let us know on our Discord server or social media, but you can only vote in the topic poll on Discord.
Now, stand back.
Were we ever on a leash?
Yes. In the very beginning.
So then the idiots are probably already unleashed.
Probably. Okay, so time to boldly go where every mediocre white podcast has gone.
At least mediocre media podcast. But let's start with the easy one. FTL technology.
That's going to fuck everything up. Like, every concept we have for how government and society and culture should work is irrevocably broken by the existence of FTL.
Also, do you know what else is irrevocably broken by the existence of FTL travel?
Everything we think we know about physics.
And one more thing. Warfare.
Mm-hmm. Because if you can accelerate a marble to faster than light travel, congratulations, you just made a planet killer for like 25 cents and however much it costs to accelerate it.
Yeah. Okay, maybe a marble at FTL wouldn't be quite a planet killer, but...
It's at least a city killer. Minimum.
You want to kill a planet? Tungsten telephone pole at light speed?
Honestly, that might be overkill.
We're talking Star Trek levels of tech, so, I mean, they're building ships, massive ships, and they've got fleets of them, so it ain't that hard.
No, it's just overkill. You could probably accelerate a tungsten brick.
Pretty much. And that's not even considering if there is some element that we find out in space that is denser than tungsten or osmium on Earth.
Actually, if at this point you have replicator technology, osmium.
Yeah.
Build an osmium brick.
So, an osmium brick the size of a small flat rate U.S. Postal Service box is going to weigh, I think it was about 65 pounds. That small, at light speed, the impact is...
We won't bore you with the math, but it's a very big number. Lots of decimal places.
Maybe it doesn't kill an entire planet, but it'll at least wipe out a good-sized country.
That's easily Europe gone.
Yeah. For the cost of whatever system we use for accelerating it and a guidance system.
You wouldn't even need a guidance system. Just we're talking Star Trek level tech, right? They got computers that can calculate that shit. They don't need a guidance system on it. Just run the calculation and fire it in that direction at that speed.
You'd probably still want a guidance system just to be sure.
That defeats the point of the exercise, though.
True. You can build a very inexpensive guidance system with Star Trek tech that will get it precisely located. But you are correct that, honestly, even today, our computers could probably do it with a minimal margin for error.
Well, and here's the other thing. You don't need to be far away to do this. You also don't need to be close up to do this.
Yeah.
As long as you can achieve FTL speeds when whatever distance you are from your target, it doesn't matter how far away or close you are, because as soon as you hit that level of acceleration, it is raining kinetic death on whatever you just hit. And I mean death.
The one thing that is important to note, though, when we're talking FTL technology in this regard, Star Trek does use the warp. Not the 40K warp, though.
Get back in that closet, Slanesh. Not this episode.
Warp technology is kind of separate from FTL. I do believe that in Star Trek, the ships do jump to almost light speed before they enter the warp conduit.
Well, it's less a conduit and more of a bubble.
At which point you start getting into the issues of the different ways they've explained it.
Well, the other thing to remember, though, is that there's more than one warp speed system. Because you've got standard warp drive, and then you've got transwarp conduits, then you've got wormholes, and you've got gravity slingshots. And Star Trek has like 1,000,001 different methods of just accelerating things to stupid speeds.
And some of them aren't actual acceleration to stupid speeds, like traditional warp. The traditional warp is weird.
Everything's weird. It's Star Trek.
And then let's of course not forget the spore drive that they have in Discovery. Which is a cool concept, but...
No, we're not getting into that.
What the fuck, guys? What were you smoking?
We're not getting into that.
Or actually, you know what? They were probably eating mushrooms. I was like...
Spore drive.
these hallucinations are like, we're traveling through space. Dude, what if a ship traveled on mushrooms? Okay, I give Discovery shit, but I actually really enjoy what I've watched of Discovery. So I'm not sitting here hating on New Trek. I'm just making fun of the spore drive.
The wars that we see in Star Trek are actually horrifically sanitized.
Oh yes, even the worst of them that we see. Any of the wars with the Cardassians, which, I mean...
The Cardassians are pussies. You want to know the most warlike species in the entire fucking galaxy, the most brutal and vicious species to ever reach for the stars? Us. We are the single most horrifying thing to exist in the galaxy. But Star Trek hyper-sanitizes it all.
My point about the Cardassians, though, is you figure the Cardassian War, or specifically Cardassian-Bajoran War, was very much an analog to Nazi Germany. And we see some brutality in that war.
Yeah, but it's like baby's first brutality.
Yeah.
It's like Fisher-Price brutality.
To be fair, that is also because this was network television back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, but even like New Trek, which can go darker, doesn't.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, you put phasers in the hands of a species like ours, and the war crimes, we invent whole new ones. We come up with exciting new war crimes.
And, of course, the one thing with Trek in that regard is there is this idea that humans have finally outgrown that. That's exactly where you can tell that Star Trek is fiction, because I don't think humans will ever outgrow that.
And we're talking real-world ramifications of this technology.
Yeah.
So, yeah, phasers equals whole new, shiny, brand new, and exciting war crimes that we don't have rules for yet.
Especially you consider that some instances of Trek, a high enough powered phaser can disintegrate.
Well, you know what a phaser does?
You know, I actually don't.
It rapidly phases matter. That's why it's called a phaser. And they set these to stun. How? How do you set a weapon that literally alters the phasic polarity of the matter it's shooting rapidly to be non-lethal?
Very carefully.
And yeah, you turn that thing to full power, the phasic modulation gets so high that, yeah, you tear yourself apart at a molecular level.
And of course, you want to talk about another thing that's not a weapon in Star Trek, that the real world ramifications of it would make phasers seem like child's play for war crimes.
Yeah, what's that?
The transporter.
Mm.
I mean, the transporter, we're going to get into a rant about the transporter. Spoiler alert.
Every time in Star Trek, it's they're moving things through different places or people through different places. I'm sorry, no, that's not how we would use a transporter in war. Yeah, okay, maybe we'll transport a bomb behind enemy lines and blow up something. But realistically, we're going to transport pieces of people away. Just pieces.
Yeah.
And watch them flop like a fish.
Or we're going to be like, oh, hey, look at that, the enemy commander. And sure, you could beam the enemy commander's heart out, which is a very effective tactic for certain strategies. But you know what else is a very effective tactic? Beaming him 500 feet straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Consider the fact that also transporters can target numerous individuals at a time. We have seen them transport nearly entire cities worth of people at one shot.
And don't forget about a very important transporter technique. Site-to-site transport.
Yeah. Telefrag.
You don't even need to telefrag. Oh, hey, they're entrenched on the surface. Doot, 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 doot. They're all in space now.
Yeah. Like I said, teleport there, just transport the guy 500 feet straight up.
Don't even do that. Just kick him out in space.
Well, my point for using it on the commander, the way of sending him straight up, is the terrifying nature of he disappears and then he comes plummeting back to Earth and splats.
Yeah, but then we have to clean that up and we don't want to.
We just beam the remains into space.
We beam vermin into enemy food supplies. The deployment of biological and chemical weapons would be insane.
Yeah.
Want to know what's more terrifying than hitting the enemy with VX?
What's that?
Transporting a microscopic amount of it into their chest.
Yeah.
Which we would absolutely do. It would be horrible. Wait a minute. I want to point something out here. When I say we would absolutely do these things, by the way, I mean as a species. Because we would. But they are absolutely reprehensible and deplorable, and we as a podcast are not condoning this level of violence at all. But it's what we would do as a species. I mean, replicator technology alone makes, for some, truly terrifying guerrilla warfare.
And especially when you consider part of how the replicators get their resources, this is something that people don't like to think about with Star Trek. They recycle as much matter as they possibly can.
Including human waste.
Uh-huh.
Enjoy your shit burger. Yeah, okay. So breaking it down, a reconstituting process means that it is in no way, shape, or form fecal matter anymore. But humans are also not logical creatures. And we will still have an aversion to it, even though it is in no way, shape, or form what it once was. I mean, shit, just look at basic recycling. You tell somebody that you recycled some paper product from toilet paper and they won't even go near it. Never mind the fact that process completely purifies and sanitizes it.
Yeah, how long do you suppose it took for Starfleet to convince humans to use the replicators? They're like, yes, we know it's recycling all biological matter. It's breaking it down to its core elemental parts and reconstituting it in different ways. It's not a shit burger, god damn it.
Oh, that's easy. In the real world, they just don't fucking tell us how it works. We'll have been using the damn things for like 20 years before there's some expose about, holy crap, this is made from recycled human waste. And then it'll be another 20 years before we finish debunking the yellow journalism surrounding that. And it's a mess.
And of course, when it comes out, yeah, there'll be plenty of like wealthy people who will stop using it, but the poor?
Oh boy. How far do we want to take this?
I don't know. How far are we taking it?
You'll get a whole bunch of pissed off rednecks shotgunning their fucking replicators on social media.
No. It won't be pissed off rednecks shotgunning their replicators on social media. Not unless we say it came from gay shit. And now we've gone too far.
Have we? Have we, though?
Well, we haven't touched ground beef yet, so.
God.
Of course, replicators are one of the both coolest and most potentially terrifying pieces of equipment in Star Trek. Because you have that technology, and there are so many amazing things you can do with it.
And there are also so many horrific things you can do with it. Like I said, a single replicator would be the most terrifying guerrilla tool ever.
Computer, smallpox blankets.
That's us showing restraint.
I mean, honestly, that was more of me being silly with it, as opposed to...
I'm going to stress for a minute. That's how horrifying a replicator used for terror tactics or guerrilla warfare would be. That smallpox blankets is a silly joke.
Yeah. I mean, the use of weaponized smallpox is not funny. It is a horrific thing that should never have happened, and fuck the colonizers that did it.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of this conversation...
Because what could be done with it is so much worse.
Yeah.
So extremely worse that, one, we're not going to get into it in detail because holy shit. And two, that it turns the deployment of smallpox blankets into a joke by comparison.
It's like comparing throwing a stick of dynamite to dropping a nuclear warhead.
It is obscene what you could do with a replicator behind enemy lines. Just obscene. And the ones we keep seeing are the microwave size ones. You know, we'd miniaturize the shit out of that. You'd have guys making you'd have a replicator holster that just builds your gun for you right when you need it. Or other stupid shit like that. So yeah, you pass a weapons test, and then once you're in, well, no, you've got an arsenal because you've got a pocket replicator.
Yeah.
It's stupid, the things that could be done with this. However, we've spent a lot of time on replicators, and there's another piece of technology that's so much worse.
The transporter?
The transporter.
Yeah, so we touched on that briefly, but now I also want to say that there are some amazingly positive uses for the transporter as well.
I mean, there's amazingly positive uses for most of this technology to begin with. I mean, we've seen it in canon Trek. But once you apply real-world creativity and, frankly, horribleness to everything, that's when the nightmares start.
Yeah. Okay. For a moment, we're going to step away from anything involving transporting humans or part of humans. Because we've already covered the negatives of that, first of all. And second of all, let's just look at some of the other things we could do with transporter technology.
Well, we'll get into the existential dread at the end here. How's that?
Yeah.
But go ahead with what you were going to cover first.
You consider how big of something that a transporter can move. And once again, you start getting into the capability of destroying entire cities with no effort. Okay, maybe you can't quite transport an entire building. You know, granted, we'd probably figure out a way to do it, but transport a Jeep, transport a couple of tungsten telephone poles into just inside the atmosphere, let them fall. Or transport out a couple of key support structures from buildings.
And here's the thing, there's an element to transporters you have not considered.
The fact that they just disintegrate things?
The fact that they do something that shouldn't be physically possible.
Turn matter into energy?
Oh, no, matter can be turned into energy all the time. It's called burning things.
Sorry, vice versa. Turning energy into matter.
No, I don't even mean that. I mean losing matter. Because, remember, a transporter pattern can degrade to the point where it cannot be reconstituted. So you can transport away parts of a building or your Jeep or whatever, or spend your time transporting repeatedly, or maybe you even build a transporter system build big enough to do whole buildings at a time. I don't know, but you just wiped a city out of this universe.
You don't even have to let the pattern degrade.
You can just delete it.
Yeah. I just delete it, or, if you don't have the ability to do that for whatever reason, which I'm sorry, we would have the ability to do that.
We would build it to do that. Like on purpose, we would build them to do that.
And officially, we would do it to...
It's a safety feature to clear the buffer.
Well, and not just that. Oh, we have all of this trash in landfills. We're just going to beam it out and disintegrate it. And we're going to use those particles to reconstitute other things.
But as far as, taking ground, because you have to remember, one of the holy grails of modern warfare is clearing enemy territory and then rapidly taking it over. It's something that a nuclear weapon can't do. It can do the first part just fine, but now you have radiation. We can't just move in and take that territory. It's why the neutron bomb, which still doesn't exist, by the way, is considered such a holy grail of speculative military fiction, because it would allow you to destroy any living organic matter in the blast radius while leaving structures and everything else completely intact and letting you take that ground immediately. With a transporter, you don't even need to leave the buildings, because you can just clear the whole plot of land you want, and using that same technology, immediately build whatever you need. Horrifying.
Of course, also, pairing for a moment, transporters and replicators.
Yeah, you can do some really fucky shit.
Beam down a killer virus, let it run its course while you're up in space, so your guys are completely safe from it.
Not even on the ground.
Hell, not even in the same solar system. Beam it down, warp out for a couple of weeks, come back, beam down something that neutralizes the virus.
Or beam up the virus and delete the pattern.
Yeah, assuming that you can pick up the individual virus. You know what I mean? Because
we absolutely could. Going back to my whole transporting away a whole city thing, nobody said you had to transport the people away.
Yeah.
So, that apartment complex you just disintegrated?
Hallelujah, it's raining men?
Pretty much. And yeah, a lot of these things we're talking about are pretty bleak, but let's be realistic here. We as a species are a bleak species.
Yeah, you take a look at what we have done throughout the history of this world.
I mean, shit, take a look at what we're doing right now. Go watch the news for 2 seconds. Any longer than that, you will have a nervous breakdown. Just 2 seconds. Go take a look.
How many weapons that we have created over the centuries were created by someone who thought that armies would see the destructive power of this weapon and go, no, we need to find an alternative to fighting because of this. And every goddamn time, some commander's like, I think using this is a good idea.
So this is a point in the podcast where I want to sit everybody down and remind everybody that we are two Americans. And we participated in a little fracas known as World War II. As a country, I mean, obviously not us personally. We weren't alive yet.
Yeah, we're not that old.
And we created a weapon system that was supposed to end all wars. We deployed that weapon twice in populated civilian areas in the same country. We dropped the atomic bomb twice on Japan, the ramifications of which are still being felt by the Japanese to this day. And those were little ones.
And, of course, America isn't unique in this.
Lots of people have them now. Lots of people are itching to use them. Remember what I said. These were the weapons that were meant to end all war. Gestures outside.
And how many other weapons have been meant to end all wars? You know, there is a very well-known Swedish chemist who thought he was going to end wars. Instead, he went on to use the earnings from his dynamite to create a prize for people who did good things for the world.
The machine gun was supposed to end all war as we knew it because it was a too vicious and brutal, too efficient method of killing large numbers of people. Yeah, that didn't work out. So then we went to bombing. Oh, the high-yield bombs we're using, those are going to end all wars. No. Air combat. Oh, the way we can just reach out and hit somebody from a distance, that's going to end all war. No. Submarine warfare. No. 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 Chemical warfare? No. Nuclear warfare? No. There will never be a weapon so horrible that we as a species stop waging war.
Yes, there will.
You mean the one that wipes us out?
Exactly. And fun little tidbit for you. Going even back before the machine gun, the crossbow. The crossbow was thought that it was going to end war because it allowed any barely trained civilian to kill an armored knight. It was like, oh, this is a great equalizer. It's going to end wars.
And then you look at a different level of warfare, because that's obviously the infantry level of warfare. There are the larger tier of warfare. Catapults were going to end wars because you could just bring a castle wall down now. And then it was trebuchets.
Because you just go over the wall.
And then it was whatever the fuck came after that. Like, it doesn't matter. Every time we have an advancement in weaponry, we go, this is it, the weapon to end all wars. It never ends all wars. We as a species have not reached the point, and may never reach the point, where we stop waging war. Unfortunately. Like, don't get us wrong. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Zolgar on this one, but I personally wouldn't mind if we just stopped waging war altogether, like tomorrow. That'd be pretty spiff.
Yeah, but the only way we're going to stop waging war is if we stop existing.
Pretty much, at this point.
If humans ever reach that point, the point of being able to say, war is stupid, we're not doing it anymore, it's going to be countless generations from now.
Centuries, plural.
Yeah.
At minimum. Which is really unfortunate.
So, let's go back to transporters for a moment.
You mean the machine that kills you and resurrects you?
Uh-huh.
You mean the machine that kills you and, more accurately, creates a perfect duplicate of you with all of your memories?
Uh-huh.
And if you think we're overplaying that card, Thomas fucking Riker exists.
Yeah. If you think we're joking about that, no. There is the episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where there is a transporter accident and a duplicate of William Riker is created. And he is William Riker in every way, shape, and form. He has all of William's memories. He has all of his feelings, his emotions, his thoughts. He is the same person.
With one exception. He was stuck there while the Riker we know made it out.
Yep.
And that kind of broke him a little bit. And he ended up being not a very good person.
He ended up joining the Maquis.
Who, you could get into the political ramifications of them being oppressed or not. Their methods were very brutal.
The Maquis were one of those groups that danced on the line between terrorist and freedom fighter.
They did very bad things for a very good cause. Let's put it that way.
Now, let's also touch on another thing of pure existential dread regarding transporters. Something that is honestly even more terrifying than a duplicate of you being made. Tuvix. It's one of the stupider storylines in Voyager, but also it was handled well in the show. But a transporter malfunction merged Neelix and Tuvok into a single being.
Yeah, there are so many levels of things here that are not okay. But that's the extreme outliers.
Yeah, those are the extreme outliers.
We have to have these, malfunctions so that we have unique and interesting episodes about the technology and the ramifications of its use and, gives us something entertaining to do for an episode. The everyday existential dread is just, it kills you and creates a clone of you. It's seventh day accelerated.
And then, of course, there's also an interesting question regarding transporters. Could one be built that could maintain a buffer of a person semi-indefinitely? Probably, every now and then reformatting it, but
Yeah,
repicturing it, I should say,
it happened.
with
Scotty.
yeah. And that was one that was honestly jury-rigged from not as good of quality tech to work, and it didn't work perfectly. So another fun little ramification of transporter technology that never gets touched on in Star Trek: the rich would be immortal.
The rich would be immortal. I mean, we're talking altered carbon taken to an extreme level here.
Yeah, it would be the same basic idea as altered carbon, except for instead of having to get shoved into a new body, it's just,
we just rebuild yours. Why not? There's absolutely nothing stopping you from being able to build technology that takes transporter technology and adapts it to that purpose. Because everything that would need to happen to do it is already there.
and especially if you could manage to make it so that you could separate the memories portion of the pattern from the physical portion of the pattern.
Oh, even if you couldn't do that, it wouldn't matter. Do you want to know why?
Why is that?
Because we have the power in Star Trek to record and implant memories.
True.
Deep Space Nine. O'Brien breaks the law on some planet. He didn't mean to. They were reaching out. It was a diplomatic type thing. And he accidentally broke the law. And instead of actually imprisoning you, they just implant memories of being in prison that play out in your dreams. How fucked up is that?
In a less fucked up version of it, but still fucked up, remember the Next Generation episode, The Inner Light, which is a heartbreaking episode, but it's also fucked up because that influences Picard for the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on the fact that data exists. We could do probably an entire episode about how the existence of data is incredibly worrisome from both a cultural and, frankly, ethical perspective. I mean, data's existence was already a source of ethical debate within the confines of that own universe. Bring it into our universe, and it gets even more fucky.
I'm not sure we could really quite do a full episode on Data himself, but...
Well, Data and his siblings and or offspring.
What I mean is synthetic life in general, because there is a lot of other stuff that we could cover with synthetic life beyond just synthetic life in Star Trek.
Well, yeah, we could, but I'm telling you, there is enough just in the existence of synthetic life in Star Trek that we could probably do a whole episode. We're not gonna, because frankly, it would probably be boring as shit. But there are so many things going on with the androids in Star Trek that are frankly worrying.
Including emotions. The fact that it was decided that it would be a good idea to give synthetic life actual emotions and then also let them turn them off.
I mean, that they had to do themselves later. That wasn't by design originally. They modified him to do that. But the fact that it can be done,
yeah,
is frankly terrifying.
And then here's a question. If you can modify an android to be able to turn off their emotions, can you modify a human to be able to turn off their emotions?
And there it is.
Which, that is a terrifying question that I think we'll leave you on. Unless you've got anything else to add.
Nope. I think that's it for this week. If you like what we do, please give us a like, follow, rating, all that nonsense in your favorite podcatcher.
You can also support us on Patreon for special bonus content and episodes a week early, or tip us on Ko-fi. You can find those and our social media platforms and Discord server all in the show notes.
Also be sure to give our friends some love, whoever the fuck it is this week.
Probably FTO. I think we've got a promo for them.
Hey everyone, this is D of FTO Podcast. We talk about a lot of nerdy things in my podcast, from TV shows to movies, video games, and even comics. We have interviews, talk about the week's news. Make sure you check out the podcast whenever you get a chance, wherever podcasts are found. But right now, you're listening to Two Idiots and a Dog podcast. Enjoy.
Last but certainly not least, we want to give a quick shout out to all of our supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi, especially these idiots.
That would be Random Warrior, Rain, and the perpetually banned Athen Mortis.
You know what you did.